Please subscribe, like, comment, and turn on the notification button so you are aware of our future episodes that you will love so much.
Well, thank you. And haven't been called the Titan of business before, so I truly appreciate it. Thank you, Marcus. I'm going to frame that. Wow. How did it start? So Rapid Blue, quite simply, the way it started was that Mnet had just started, and they were about a year or two old, and I started working for Mnet as initially just as a freelance cameraman, and then as an editor cutting promos. And my now wife, Killeen, had been hired by Mnet as a production manager, and so we met at Mnet, and the two of us and two other people, so Nico Steyn and Tjerd Korsten, in the beginning, the four of us were essentially Mnet's on-air promotion and design team. So we cut the 30-second promos that said, watch the movies, watch the sport, and that's kind of what we were doing. And the beauty with promos is that they're like little mini movies, so you learn the entire process of content producing, from promos. And so we started that, and then at that point, it was an in-house division of Mnet. And then I had a conversation with Killeen, and I put together a business model which I took to Mnet, and I essentially structured a management buyout. So by the time I did that, this team had grown. I think we were about 12 or 14 people, and I went to Mnet and said, "Look, I want to take this unit out of Mnet, set it up as an external supplier, cut a contract with you to continue using our services at a particular price point." And I built a model that showed them that if they did this, it would be commercially more viable for them to do it this way. And so I could prove to them that it would cost them less. And because we were out, we would be more competitive, we'd be more nimble, and all the rest of it. And they liked the idea, and we did a deal. And I did the deal, and we came out of Mnet and started the business Rapid Blue. And so initially, for our first sort of 8 years of Rapid Blue, we essentially did promos for Mnet. We did, and we were involved in some phenomenal, projects. I mean, we did the on-screen execution for a lot of the TV brands that are still on television. The Mnet Ribbon M, all of those. So it was a good time. It was a really good time, and then. And then Rapid Blue just grew from there. So then I moved it into long-form programming. We moved into international facilitation. We then expanded the market into Africa. We started working with a lot of international broadcast platforms, producers, and just grew it from there.
Okay, so from the team, you'd have someone who'd go and look for the business and say, there might be an opportunity in this territory, and we'll facilitate such shows. Because my understanding was you'd do a lot of shows like Family Feud and so on and so forth, right? Reality. So fast forward to obviously a bigger company, BBC, coming and buying you out. What happens then?
Yeah, so look, the beauty with the BBC is that we'd been working with the BBC for probably now, I would say, 18 years or so. So we had a good relationship with them, and I really liked them. They're a great company, great culture. And so initially, they came in as a shareholder into the business.
Yeah.
And we had a deal structure that essentially said, if either one of us wanted to either buy the other or sell to the other, we negotiated a particular mechanism to be able to pull that trigger and trigger that deal, or we would just walk hand in hand as partners, into the future. And so I did that deal maybe 9 or 10 years ago, and so for a good 7-8 years we worked shoulder to shoulder as great partners. And I loved it. I couldn't have hoped for better partners.
Wow, that's very rare, because with such deals, you find that the cultures are different.
Yeah,
and it's very rare.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we spent a lot of time making sure that culturally we were really aligned, and that, as I said, they were truly great partners. The reason why I pulled the trigger to sell Rapid Blue was linked more to the fact that where my wife and I are in terms with our kids and things, they finished university, they're getting on with their life. Our daughter is now engaged, and
Wonderful.
And we wanted to get to a place where we just had a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more, and we weren't sort of working.
Yeah, there's no need for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we pulled the trigger on the deal. And
was it hard to let go?
You know what? It's an interesting thing. I thought it would be relatively easy, because I felt like I'd made the decision, like 8 years ago, bringing them on as partners and everything else. I was like, well, essentially I've sold the business. You know what I mean? It's just, but it was, it was really hard. It was really, really hard. And I think that's largely for any founder of a business. So when you're getting to that place where you now want to extract value from this business that you built, so much of your identity is attached to that business. Your relationships with the staff and the team. I mean, you've known them for years. I mean, we had staff that had worked for us for 20 odd years. So
become family.
So exactly. So it's a little bit like it's a little bit like a forced divorce almost. It's kind of like, well, you need to leave now and not talk to us, and everything else. So that was actually, so it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. And I'm incredibly proud of Rapid Blue, and and they're making great shows, and so I stand from afar, and I'm kind of like sort of like a proud father on the side. But I've now, with the new business, I've kind of dived into that 100%, and I'm loving what we're doing in the new business.
Let's have a chat about that.
Yeah.
Ignite. Where did the inspiration come from, and what exactly is a vision?
Oh, okay, great. Look, the vision for it came from a conversation that Steve Harvey had with the president of Botswana. And so the president of Botswana was chatting to him and just said, look, we've got a small but great television. We've got great producers and talent and everything in Botswana, but it's quite a small industry. Yeah. It's a population of about 2 million. No, exactly, 2.5 million people. Yeah. One public broadcaster, one private broadcaster, and quite, they'd become quite inward looking and quite insular, and you have this environment where everybody's sort of competing for the commissions and the RFPs that come out. And he really felt that they have the potential to be much bigger than they currently are. And so he had this conversation with Steve Harvey. And then Steve Harvey, I've worked with and known for a really long time and absolutely admire. Yeah. I'm not sure if on your show you're going to play any of what Steve...
We definitely are. Good. We got a lot of their content.
Yeah.
Amazing man.
Amazing man. So I'm not going to talk too much about that because he's truly an amazing man.
Yeah.
And so I worked with him and his team, in particular Brandon Williams, and I developed a model which we presented to the Botswanan government, and they liked it and they agreed to fund it, and so that's kind of how it came about. And so it was officially launched 4th of December last year. We really started doing the work in March of this year. But already we're starting to really see the kind of, the sort of green shoots of what this is looking like. And it's really exciting.
Yeah. I mean, development is a very important part of, actually getting this industry where it's supposed to be, especially in a space like Botswana.
Yeah.
Skills development, that is.
Yeah.
Are you, I mean, your program, how do you actually implement, the training and making sure that you upskill the people who are interested in this business?
Yeah. Yeah. So we, the base layer of this program is training. So we have a television academy in Gaborone, and we have a specialist wildlife filmmaking school up in the Chobe region in Kasane.
And that's where the potential is, isn't it? In the wildlife.
Yeah, I mean, it's in both areas, but it's a no-brainer, literally, to develop that in Botswana because they have the natural resources. It's all there. And wildlife is such a niche kind of area of television. It's almost on its own standalone kind of world. Unique people, unique business models, unique platforms and everything else. So it's very hard to put that sort of training into a standard kind of film school. And so the people who are training in that are all experts in that field. We've got Pippa teaching at the moment on script writing, and she just won the Oscar for Octopus Teacher.
Amazing.
We've brought a Bill Donnarumma, Professor Bill Donnarumma from the US, from Notre Dame University, to come in and teach, on cinematography and workflow, and he's a wildlife expert. So, those are the skills that we're bringing into the Wildlife Film School, and we're doing similar sort of skill development in the TV Academy. And that is to do two things. So we really are trying to, and the uniqueness of it is that it's very immersive. So it's not just sit in a classroom and learn. Yeah. It's very immersive. So the students from the TV Academy are now in studio where Steve is going to be going to next week. So they are learning every single process of a world-class kind of studio-based game show. And with the wildlife, we're doing similar kind of things. So that is what is really unique about the training development part of it. And what we're doing now as well with them is the business of television. Steve always keeps saying the word, showbiz is show plus biz, and the biz.
So true.
It is so absolutely true. So, we've been integrating the business of television into our training, we're in this year still, we're going to be launching master classes in everything from entertainment law, deal making, financial management specifically for television and film. And then we're going to be doing case studies around each production, in terms of who we sell it to, how we did that, so that we accelerate the learning and development on how to cut deals.
I love it because, it means these young people are actually a part of the whole process. They get to understand, the whole ecosystem. Yeah. And that's actually the premise of why we started this podcast, the Film Biz Show, to have conversations around this business because, it's very important to demystify this big machinery that seems so scary from the outside. I think more and more young people are coming into the space wanting to be actually, a part of the whole process and not just one little piece. So I think what you're doing is very commendable. But tell me, with a population of about 2.5 million, how do you plan to, this IP that you'll be creating from this program, and will it just be exploited within the confines of the Botswana border, or you plan to export
absolutely
it?
not. And that's the key. So, the only way for that industry to grow is to look outside of Botswana. So everything that we're designing is to fuel and facilitate business of television and film, essentially outside of Botswana, and be that anything from on the one extreme, which is really literally just facilitating international productions that come into Botswana and putting crew cast on those productions, all the way through to co-productions, all the way through to the other extreme, where we're wanting to get to a place where original ideas that are being generated in Botswana are being commissioned by the streamers or essentially non-Botswanan platforms. And literally, as I sit here, we have projects that are kind of in the works across that entire spectrum.
Now, I heard through the grapevine that they are working on a rebate system in Botswana. But are there any loopholes that you're seeing in South Africa, or anything that the government might not be necessarily exploiting, and now in Botswana, because of your proximity to the government, you're able to implement and say, well, as a servicing country, or as a country that has a servicing facility for international productions, maybe we could do this differently to South Africa.
Absolutely. Bottom line is, so done a lot of research in terms of rebate schemes around the world, looked at markets that are similar size, if not smaller than Botswana. So everything, did a deep dive on Mauritius, did a deep dive on Malta, looked at Serbia, countries like that. And then learned from everybody from, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, the US, South America, Germany. So basically done a very deep dive from a research point of view to have a look at what works, what doesn't work around the world. Then took that, started to create the genesis of a rebate scheme, then started testing that with producers because they're your ultimate client, and started sitting in front of them and saying, and I was saying to them, this is what I'm thinking of doing. It's going to look like this. What do you think? And getting feedback from them. And so I think that essentially what we're looking to design is going to be, I think it's going to be, probably game changing, without a doubt. Because we're hitting every kind of aspect that is a challenge and in terms of rebates. So it's not just about, what is the rebate? Is it a 30%, a 40% rebate? What is it? But clarity around how measurable it is, keeping it simple, speed, speed of decision. If we make an application and we apply correctly, how quickly will you come back, in a defined period of time? The analysis, of it, the response rates, once we get the audit at the end of the production, the speed at which the rebate gets paid, we're having a look at things that producers struggle with. We're providing a vehicle where you can use some of the rebate. You can front load your production, so you're assisting with cash flow. So that often takes out your need, to get, to bank the production and loan money against the So we're finding things that are lubricating the system, but also keeping it very simple, clean. Looking at having it web based, so it's very easy to engage with. So all of these things, and then looking to make it competitive and attractive. Again, we know what everybody's rebate scheme looks like. And wanting to make it, financially competitive too.
Duncan, from the sounds of it, it seems like you guys have literally been given the mandate to restructure the whole sector in Botswana, and that's a big responsibility. But there's no one else who I think will be capable of delivering than you, Duncan.
Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for joining us in our show. Very special broadcast. But one last thing, we live in a time right now where we're faced to actually think about our mortality and what it's all about. So just in a nutshell for you, when we hopefully in the very far future, we're reading Duncan Irvine's obituary, we say, this is what this man was about. Can you give us a sense of what your vision is and what it's all about in terms of your contribution to the sector?
I think that's an interesting one. I've never even thought about that before, Marcus. So that you really are putting me on the spot. I think that, look, what I love about this project, to me and to Steve, is this is, for us, it's a legacy project. This is something that we want to leave behind. I want to be able to, even in 8 years' time, I want to be looking at Botswana. And I want to watch them celebrating great productions and see, production companies that are grown, that are engaging around the world, and and winning Oscars, and all of that. That for me is the dream scenario. If that was what my obituary said, that would be great. And then if right at the end it said, and he was a great father, and I think I would be a very happy man. I'd
tearing me up here, Duncan. Tearing me up, yeah. Thank you so much, Duncan. And we the work that you're doing is really going to change the lives of generations to come. So, when I use words like Titan, it really is not me throwing around terms, but it's some, what you're doing is things, you're doing something that people have literally died to see happen. So from us, the Film Biz Show, we really want to wish you well on your way. We want to gift you with a special gift. This is a book based on the screenplay Mapantula. I'm sure you know the film.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And we've made a contribution to the book of, there's a recording of our interview with the director. And this is our gift to you. And may we just want to bless you on your way.
Thank you. This is phenomenal.
Okay.
I really appreciate this.
Fantastic.
Truly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Marcus,
sir.
thank you for your time. Good.